everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. So we are in the middle of the Modern Women's Health Summit. All the next couple of weeks, we are talking to experts in the field of women's health and nutrition about some of these issues that make it really difficult for us to be healthy in our modern society. And today's interview is at the top of the list for that. So I am joined by Nanci Tunley. Nanci is a nutritional therapist, a coach, and theta healer. She helps her clients with their physical, emotional, and spiritual health so that they can practice their purpose and experience the freedom, energy, and joy that is their birthright. She also is the creator of Balance and Shine, which teaches nutritional therapists and health coaches a framework that facilitates lasting change with their clients. Graduates are equipped with everything they need to coach clients through a content-rich, powerful program that they can make all their own. So hi, Nanci. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here, and I've been watching you and everything that you're creating and giving to the world, and it's amazing. It really is. All kinds of familiar faces and experts that I've seen and gotten to also learn from through the years, and I think that there's just some really great knowledge and nuggets and wisdom that's being shared with us. So thank you for everything that you're doing.
Absolutely. Yes. This has been, all the interviews have had these little nuggets. So I'm like, I need to point this on something because people need to know it.
I love it. Yes. Post it.
Yes. Post it. So tell us first how you became interested in nutrition, and then what was the catalyst that kind of made you realize the mindset and beliefs, were a real problem for your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. So my mom was the mom who had, the 17 grain bread, who didn't buy any junk food. And, I grew up in the 80s where it was juice boxes and Capri Sun, and everything in a package was like the cool thing to have. And my mom was like, here's your almonds and your apple and like a piece of cheese maybe, and, see you later. And so, there would be that like this, that was this, God, it felt so alienating, right? As an adolescent to go and sit next to your friends, to all the cool lunches. And so she just believed in that. And she believed in it. And part of that, her motivation also was that my dad actually had, I call it like the original Whole Foods. Like he had a produce store here in San Diego and also sold a lot of brands that are still out there in Whole Foods. Yeah, so just, more local honey and dairy and just more of a fresh whole food approach, that in the 80s just wasn't as cool yet and known as it is now. And so, that was really my introduction to my mom's knowledge, and no, I'm not ever buying that junk. Plus, probably, the fact that we had a store was motivating to her as well. And so that was really one of the biggest catalysts, just getting into nutrition. And then as far as the second part of your question, which was how did I realize or come to the conclusion that I really wanted to work a little bit deeper with clients or from a different angle with clients, and still be able to use, the great nutrition knowledge that I had, because there was, several times in my life where it just, saved my life in so many different ways, just from different situations that I had gotten myself into where my, body had really broken down, that I was really able to bring it back to life through functional nutrition. So, there's two situations. There's one where I noticed my clients wouldn't follow through. They wouldn't take on what I suggested. They would avoid. They would say they would, agree in session and then come back and, basically had barely done anything. And so there was that barrier, and seeing them be nervous and worried and, sometimes just you know, you just kind of get that feeling someone's not going to follow through. They're not taking in what you're suggesting. And it was always that just intuitive feeling like I'm actually meant to help these people in a different way. And it's not that I don't believe that the health information I'm sharing isn't valuable. I know it is, but I just feel like I just know there's more. Just had that feeling. And then the other part was when clients did follow through and they did really well and they lost the weight and they healed, you know, they were healing, they were getting their energy back. They were like, thank you, thank you, thank you. It was short-lived and they still felt like there was a piece missing. And they would come back to me and they'd be like, well, I'm actually doing okay and my eating's really well, just something else isn't right. I'm not sure what it is. And can you help me? And so that was kind of the two situations where I was like, okay, there's more to this. There's more to the sauerkraut. There's more to the gut. And that part is so important because hello, neurotransmitters, brain health, you know, how we see things in perspective. But that was the knock on the door for me and just for my inner being going, yes, I want to be able to help people in this way too.
That's so amazing. And yeah, that's such a big part of it. Like there's that saying that if information alone could, you know, heal everyone, then Google would have done it a long time ago.
Yep, absolutely.
There's so much more to it than just the information. That's amazing. Yeah. So before we dive into the topic, do you want to just kind of explain to our audience what a limiting belief is? Because people might have read that in the title and been like, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, sure. And I think like even before we talk about limiting beliefs, just talking about beliefs.
Yeah.
And beliefs are, you know, really your perspective and your viewpoint that you hold dear and is valuable to you on, you know, how you see yourself, what you believe about yourself, what you believe about the world around you, and what you believe about other people, how you see other people. And so a limiting belief is going to be something that, and, you know, in some ways, I almost don't even like calling them limiting beliefs in a way because it has like this good, bad, negative connotation. And they're just beliefs. You know, we all have beliefs about what we believe is, you know, possible for us or what we think healthy is. And do we believe that we're that person that can be vibrant? You know, and so a limiting belief is really a belief that is not congruent with what you say you want to be experiencing. So there's a limit to it. So you're getting only so far, and you're going to your stopping point, really. And you know, you get to your stopping point, and you can't get to where you know your inner being really wants to go because there's just something there that you believe about yourself, that you believe about other people, or you believe about the world. Maybe you don't think the world is a safe place. I mean, I think with everything that's going on in the world right now, you know, with women, you know, how many women don't feel like it's safe to be sexy, right? So if you don't believe the world is a sexy place where you can be sexy and feel safe, then that alone could be a limiting belief for you in how you know, if you're in a weight loss process, if you're in a process of just stepping out to be seen in a bigger way, just having the world, you know, think that that's okay, you know, for a woman to be stepping into her power and to be sexy or to be whatever it is. So that's an example of what a limiting belief could be.
Yeah, that's amazing. I like your definition that it's a thought that's incongruent with where you say you want to be. That's such a great way to phrase that. Yeah. So how would someone know if they have a belief that is holding them back in some way?
Well, I think it's important to assess and be honest with yourself about what it is that you really want and desire. And I think that oftentimes we come up with, you know, what we believe is true for ourselves, or we have like the birth of an idea or a birth of something that we want, or if there was ever a time for you or me that one day where we had this idea where we were like, oh my gosh, I want to be a nutritional therapist. I want to help people be able to heal their bodies with nutrient dense food. I want to learn about how to do that, right? That's a birth of an idea. And we have this other, side of our brain that, just that critical side that's like, no, you can't do that.
Yep.
So I believe that we have that cycle going on in us all the time, where we're like, I want to be, a trapeze artist. And then like at the same time, it's like we just shoot ourselves down like, oh my gosh, that is the most ridiculous idea you could possibly come up with. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, I think that we shut ourselves down a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you find that there's a different set of limiting beliefs for health versus life? Or is it really just all a set of beliefs that are affecting both areas that people just don't realize are there?
I believe, and this is what I teach in the Balance and Shine program, that there's, that life is really an overarching. I mean, I think we could both agree health is life and life is health. That they go together. But I believe that there's the over-encompassing life belief system, and then within that there is health on the physical body and like what you believe that you're supposed to look like, and what you believe health means to you, and what you believe taking care of yourself is like, and what you believe vibrancy is like, and what it's like we kind of allow ourselves on a physical perspective and even emotional to I think we have a limit on how good we're allowed to feel. Oh. And I'll see that with people, like they'll do really well for a really long period of time, and then all of a sudden something will happen. And sometimes there's not even a specific trigger. It's just sometimes we're just not used to feeling good, and we sabotage it just to kind of go back into that pattern, because it's just, maybe that's, the tribe that we're in, maybe it's just for whatever reason, it's not okay to be happy and to be good and feeling good all the time. So I think that there's an overarching life. And then I do think that there's some more specific beliefs that are under that, that health, physical body space that just have to do with, your physical health and how your body feels per se.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So it sounds like some of these are kind of hard to know if this is what's going on for you. So what would you say to someone who's like, that's not a limiting belief, this is just reality, this is just the way things are?
Yeah. And I would say to that, yeah, you're right. And it can also change and shift. It's possible, right? So we can completely accept and appreciate and even relish in, and if we don't mean we have to like where we are, but we can appreciate where we are even if we don't like it in our current reality. And we can also look forward to something different. So we can have both. And we have the ability to be able to shift that and to change that. Oftentimes we don't have the pathway or the how, or sometimes we have that part, but we don't have the support. Yeah. So support is really a big, the right kind of support is really a big factor. So when people say these are just the way things are, it's concrete, it's black and white, I don't see anything beyond the horizon, I absolutely agree there, because there is the reality, right? And then there's also the map, right? So when you're on a map, we all have our own map. When we're on a map, it's where we start here and there's an X, and then we're going somewhere and there's an X to where we're going. And there has to be an appreciation, or there can be, if I'm speaking to somebody who is not feeling, believing in that just the possibility is there, that there can be both. There's room for both. So.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And it's kind of a reminder that you are in charge of your destiny. It's your reality is your reality, but you have a lot of things that you can control to change that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes.
Oh, cool. So what are the really common beliefs that you see that we can kind of watch out for or think to ourselves, like, is this something going on for me?
I think one of the big ones, which I love to dispel, is that you have to suffer to get anywhere from something. You have to suffer to be healthy.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying there can be suffering in a growth process of any kind. Because there can be, sure. Like, that's not really fair to say, oh my gosh, there's no suffering. Then that's just not true. And I think that if we can, turn that pain into purpose and use it on our healing journey, then it's so valuable. But that's a big one. Just the belief, I have to suffer. This has to be hard. I have to deprive myself to be healthy.
Yeah,
that's a big one.
Deprivation. That's a huge one that people assume is going to be part of it. Is you can no longer have anything you enjoy.
Oh yeah, and I've been there. That first nutritionist I went to, and walking down the aisles and being like, I'm never going to be able to eat pasta again. And but I feel so much better. But I'm never going to be able to, and just that, almost being in between two worlds, right? Yeah. Then I also think that sometimes there's just, I don't deserve to have vibrant health. And that really can come from the root belief, and this is more along the lines of energy work and theta work of, believing that you're bad or you need to be punished, or, sometimes there's that, that self beat up, that constant self beat up that basically sends us the message, that's just our inner gremlin or inner critic or whatever you want to call it, that sends us the message that we don't get to be fully healthy and happy all the time. We don't. And so that's a big one. Just not feeling like you have to deserve it, or that you deserve it, or because you're not perfect, you don't deserve it, which is a big one.
Yeah.
That's a great one to help to really break through. And, I'm a big supporter of, I love to take people to the process of being, really strictly on whole foods, initially, so they can know what it feels like, so that they can have a baseline. But then also I am a big supporter of intuitive eating and eat what you want, and, be able to have a relationship with your body and what works for you. But there is no really plan out there except for the one that works for you. So, how about this one? So if I get my energy back, so if I heal my body, I get my energy back, or I lose the weight, and then I will have to fill in the blank. So maybe somebody wants to be in a relationship, or somebody wants love, or somebody wants something that really there's an underlying fear of having, or success. Maybe if I show up and I'm, in your business, even, if I show up all the time and I get all this success, well, then will I be able to handle it? That's a limiting belief for a lot of people. But sometimes there's just things that, if we're not feeling our best or feeling good, or someone's really struggling, then it can kind of be a way of hiding. And that's the truth. Being tired is normal. Being sick is normal. Everyone's around me doesn't feel good. Everybody around me eats sugar. This is just what we do.
Yes.
That's a good one. So you've heard that one. Putting myself first and taking care of myself makes me narcissistic. It makes me selfish. It makes me, that's a big identity shift. Yeah. Especially for women, right? Being able to put themselves first. Yeah. And, just feeling like, especially if you come from a long line of women who put themselves last, then that's a tough one, because at that point, to shift those beliefs are so almost genetic. You almost feel like you're dishonoring your mom and your grandma and your great grandma because they did it. And so to shift those things is challenging. And as women, as moms, I have two little children, we're wired just to give and to give and give and give. So to switch that paradigm and give to yourself first can be a lot to swallow.
Yeah. Yeah. That's some big work.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and then I think just in general, just being kicked out of tribe, if I'm just not fitting in, like I had said before, and that's a big one too.
Yeah, yeah. That goes into the one you were just talking about, the idea of, if you are in a family where everyone is always putting themselves last and no one really takes care of themselves, even before you make any changes or tell anyone, you might have this, fear of what is my mom going to say when I tell her I'm, not doing PTA this year or something. The fear of being judged by your tribe, and yeah, it's huge.
And you're changing what you believe is, what you believe about being a good mom is.
Yeah, yeah.
And
so,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So once someone knows they have a belief like this, where can they start to, well, I guess to back up, where does someone start when trying to figure out even what their limiting beliefs are? Like, how do we untangle what do I really believe about things? Because I think a lot of these people don't realize they even believe these things until they're confronted with trying to change.
Sure, absolutely. And I really think if you're on your own and you're contemplating and you're reflecting, if this is making you think, it's really about being honest with yourself and what you want to be experiencing. And I'm not saying that the process of desire and wanting what you're experiencing is something that's just supposed to appear. But if you're feeling like you're stuck and you've been working on it and something's in your way and you keep pushing up against something and you don't know what it is, then there's probably something there that you're not conscious of that's holding you back. And so you can just ask yourself, what might someone have to believe in order to have this thing that I want to really be experiencing? Mm-hmm. Another way of saying it is, think about someone else who has or who is experiencing what you want to be experiencing. And, what might they be believing about themselves or other people or the world that I'm not experiencing, that I'm not believing? There's something that I see in them that they believe about themselves that I don't have. And what is that? So those are two ways you can do it on your own. And then, but working with somebody else is also, we have blind spots.
Yeah.
We cannot see everything. I can't see everything. I constantly, at least every quarter am, going to someone and just working on, this is, the direction this is my experience right now. This is what I'm moving towards. This is where I'm being pulled towards, and just doing some work around it and just being conscious of, having a high enough level of consciousness to be able to navigate.
Absolutely. Yeah, it does. It's kind of like, I see this a lot with other people's problems. Like when you're experiencing a problem yourself, it feels so confusing and it's so complicated and there's all these factors and it's like, what could I possibly do? But then when someone else tells you their problem, you're like, I know what you need to do. This is your real problem.
It's so easy. How come they're not getting it?
Yeah. You do need that outside perspective. Sometimes you're a little too close.
Yeah. I mean, it could possibly be me anyways.
Yeah. So once we say we've figured out what our thing is there a way that we can change the beliefs that we have, or are we stuck with it?
Well, you're definitely not stuck with it. Although I will say that in my experience, some beliefs are really more deep-seated than others. Mm-hmm. But regardless, it takes time. And I think we talked about this before, is that your beliefs will dictate what you're experiencing, and your experience will confirm your beliefs. Mm. So it's I hate to say something so ambiguous as it's work, but it's changing your beliefs and is going to involve changing your ways of being and your behaviors. There are certain behaviors and things that you do and how you show up that are manifesting because of what you believe. So in order to be able to change your beliefs, you have to change those behaviors and those ways of being. And that usually involves being outside of your comfort zone in some way because you're doing something new. Anytime you do something new, I think I feel like when people talk about being outside their comfort zone, it feels like terror.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like terror, like that's so scary, and it feels really big. And I don't like to explain it in that way. I like to make the process of something new really safe, so that as you're stepping into it, you're doing it and you're feeling inspired and excited, and it's not terrifying. And sometimes you make really big leaps and sometimes you make small ones. But the point is that you're trying on these new ways of being and behavior, and that is shifting your belief system about what's possible for you. Does that make sense?
It does. It does.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see how it is a little bit of work. It's not something that's just gonna, happen in just by knowing what your limiting beliefs are, that all of a sudden you're gonna be done.
Exactly. But awareness is huge. I mean, having the awareness around it is really big, because you're like, oh, okay, I didn't know I didn't, for me, like just the worthiness was such a big deal for me. It's like, okay, I'm actually worthy of doing work that I love in the world and getting paid for it and helping people. And guess what? This is easy for me. And that means I'm also going to have to confront the fact that I think I need to, suffer, and this needs to be really hard. And I need to basically turn myself into an empty carcass to be successful. And that's doesn't really work in this line of work. It's kind of the opposite of this type of work. We're talking about growing.
Yeah.
So there's work in that, and it's like, oh, this feels weird and uncomfortable, and okay, but that's what it should be. That's what it should be.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So it's not, immediately rainbows and unicorns. Are there some common roadblocks people should expect to bump into, and how do you move past those?
Common roadblocks. It's definitely not rainbows and unicorns, because taking yourself on and confronting some of the things that you believe and digging into where some of those things came from. And those are sometimes things that have been here, with us for a lifetime. So, and they're not always fun to look at, right? It's not fun to look at our shadow side or a darker side and see it's like, oh God, shoot. We've been doing this a long time.
Yeah.
So I think roadblocks really are fear. I really think that that's really, the underlying core of it is that there's fear in stepping forward. And I think that the remedy for that is to uncover, what is it that you're really fearful of? What is that you're really scared of happening? Because that's, oftentimes not real. And we all have that audience inside of our head that's like, I can't get ready. I'm just getting ready to laugh at you as you step forward and do this, or I'm making, and that's just this imagined audience, or that we have imagined all of these things that are going to happen. And so I think the roadblock is really about fear, right? And we hear all this about playing bigger and doing all these things. It's not really playing bigger. It's just playing, authentically, really showing up and playing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's just not enough people in the world that are doing that. It's not because the play bigger thing is like, that's cool and everything, but it makes it sound like it's this grandiose thing that's only for some people. It's not for some people. It's for everybody. So, so to really authentically play, we have to kind of unravel the fear and understand that it's oftentimes just not real.
Yeah. Yeah, I can really see that in what you were saying earlier about your tribe and the fear of being rejected from your tribe. That's one of the things that I see probably the most often, is people being afraid of, they don't want their friends to think that they're going to become this crazy health nut, and no one's going to invite them to dinner anymore. And, they're going to be ostracized if they start changing the way that they eat.
The fear absolutely.
Of that. And it is fear. I think people need to realize it's just fear, and you can't move past it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, any kind of change, it's really about, any kind of change you take on is really about becoming, it's about growing. And, of course, not everyone is going to like sometimes when you grow, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Some people just are going to be confronted by that, and that's okay. Like, we just let people be where they are and we get to be where we are. So it's just, helping. I do a lot of work on helping my clients just shift their perspective in a really simple, easy way. And it's like, oh, okay, now I feel untethered to that and I can keep going. Okay, cool. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how does the idea of like positive thinking play into this? Like if someone is trying to stay positive, they feel like they're doing everything they can, but they're still stuck in a situation that they don't want.
So I think the whole idea of positive thinking and optimism is really great. And I think that there needs to be more permission to say things are not going great and things are not going the way I want. And I feel stuck and I'm sad about it and I'm frustrated, and allowing that to come out. And we're honest with ourselves, because we like to bury that stuff. As human beings, we like to hide from it. And so having just a safe space, either by yourself or with somebody else, in a journal, like just to be able to get that out and not bypass it by trying to, because then we get into really delusion, right? It's like, everything's fine, everything's fine, everything's fine, everything's, when everything's not fine, that's not okay. So having some method, or whatever works for you, go throw rocks in a lake, go running, whatever it is, and just an honest conversation with yourself, with other people, and get that stuff out, I think is really important. So I just want to say that about positive thinking, and being stuck at the same time. So there needs to be like an outlet. And because I think when you're in the practice of letting go of the frustration and the emotions that are keeping you stuck, because usually that's what they are, is just emotions, then you can have a fresh perspective. So moving your body, getting in a different location, sometimes what I do, if I get really stuck and frustrated or something's not working the way I want it to work, I get up out of my environment and go somewhere else, just to think about, just to be in a different space. Also moving my body will, kind of shift the emotion. And then it's like, oh, okay, now I feel like an idea is coming through. And usually we're just a decision or a choice in a different direction, away from not feeling stuck anymore, right? And then you can bring on your positive thinking. So that's kind of the process that I do.
That's great. That's it reminds me of the saying, I don't know if it's a saying, but like people talk about always getting their best ideas in the shower.
Yeah,
like
totally.
It's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great advice. And that's very practical advice. People can do that. Like get up, go on a walk and, think about it, or get out of your environment.
Totally. And when we feel stuck, sometimes we just, I don't know, we just get caught in that like shame and blame, or I'm not good enough. See, or look at me. I'm that kind of like reconfirm a belief that, see, I'm right. I suck, or I'm right. I can't do it. Or I'm right, no, this wasn't never going to work out, or so-and-so is right, or my mom is right, or my grandmother that's not even alive anymore is right, And so we like to confirm our things through negative experiences too. And so it's important to be cautious that we don't go, that we express ourselves, we get the emotions out, but we don't have to stay there. We don't have to stay there. So,
yeah. So before I let you go, is there any last kind of thought that you want to make sure people understand from this? If we have someone watching who's been trying, they're changing their health, but they're just really still feeling stuck. It's just not an easy process.
Yeah. I really believe that whole health is, the physical and the emotional and the spiritual bodies working together. And so I really encourage people to, if you've been working on one of those and it's been working out for you, but you feel like you've gotten to the end of your rope with that avenue, that it's important to get a different perspective and go, maybe there is some emotional work or things that you're holding on to that you can let go of, or, just spiritually feeling connected to, and whatever that means to you, to the planet, to the earth, God, universe. Is there some more connection there that you would like to cultivate? So I really encourage people to go down, different pathways of healing, and also know at the same time that they're whole and complete no matter what in this moment, that they're absolutely exactly where they're supposed to be, that their experience, whether they're in pain, whether they're suffering, it's absolutely an opportunity. It can be an opportunity for the greater good. And so, yes, it's just to embrace that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Just switching that perspective can make such a big difference.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, since Halloween is coming up, I'm having everyone on the series, since we're talking about trying to be healthier in modern life, which is so difficult. Halloween's coming up, and it's all candy and sugar, and it can be a big trigger for a lot of people. So do you have any tips or resources to help the audience have a healthier Halloween this year?
Yeah, I am really, I have 2 girls, and one is 6 and one is 10. And my younger daughter had a lot of food allergies. It's just growing up. So as she was a toddler, baby and toddler. And so in preschool, so she cultivated, like, it almost is like a deprivation mindset. So for her, we've been working on that as she's off on her own and going to school and mostly managed, but not always, she'll still gladly say yes to a cupcake and things like that. And so for her, it was actually really triggering for me because I saw how she'd almost get like crazed around sugar because she just couldn't ever have it, and dairy and things like that. So it created a lot of obsession at a young age. Yeah. And so for us in our house, it's really about education and talking about food dyes and what those can do to our bodies and our brains and how we feel after we eat sugar and we don't feel good, so that they're enrolled in the entire process too. So they know, okay, like I can, enjoy and participate and have, and luckily they can do that. I know a lot of kids out there can't. And I can stop when my body's not feeling, I can have 2 pieces and then be okay and then walk away. So for my older daughter, that's okay. She's 10 and she can get that. For my younger daughter, we still work on it together. So just the education piece of it. And I've found the less I've let go, the more I've let go rather, the more it's taken the charge out of the sugar for Charlotte. So that's really helped the more that I've actually let go a little bit. Like it's not this big power struggle, which is really miserable.
Sure.
Yeah. And the truth is that she actually eats really well. I mean, she'll eat anyone under the table with a can of sardines and carrots and everything. Like she eats so well. Yeah. So it's like introducing this big stressor of like, you can't eat your candy. It just doesn't fit well with me. So it's more about education and, hey, let's try 2 pieces. And then since I've like kind of let go a little bit, they just forget about it.
Sure.
They forget about it. So that's been cool. And I think I shared a recipe with you. Did you? I can't remember who it was from.
I have it, and I'll link to it in the post for people.
Yeah. So we make those. We've made it with marshmallows before too. Just maybe like one time during the season. They love that. So yeah. Educating and healthy relationship to food is kind of my thing. So
yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for this. I think that this is a concept that's not very familiar to a lot of people when they are trying to resolve their health issues, and just the idea that your beliefs play any role in this, and that there might be something holding you back you're not even aware of, is huge. So I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your expertise in this and helping to give people an idea of what could be keeping them stuck if they can't see it for themselves.
Yeah, totally. My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on and everything that you're doing. It's fantastic.
Thank you. And for everyone watching, I will link to Nanci and the recipe that she shared in this post right after this video. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Molly. Bye.